Hello, everyone. How we doing? Thanks for being here. Welcome to Agog House for our community meetup. My name's Raul. I'm a senior project manager here. It's good to see some new folks in the space. Just for as a matter of introduction, for those of the are joining for the first time, Agog is a philanthropic org, and our purpose is to help people use XR to build a better world. We help creators and organizations use XR for social good, with an emphasis on climate change, uh, indigenous knowledge, and human rights. And so this is our monthly community meetup where we highlight people doing that impactful work in immersive tech. I'm super pleased to have representatives from a wonderful org here today. We're going to be featuring Trans Academy. They're a nonprofit that's doing incredible community building right here in VRChat. They boast over 65,000 group members, and Trans Academy is committed to fostering a safe, inclusive, and educational virtual environment that empowers transgender community and their allies. We're going to be joined by Trans Academy's founder, Tizzy, as well as their director of nonprofit operations, Scout, and they're going to be in conversation led by their director of media, Jaime. We're also going to be doing a world hop after our session. We're going to jump into Trans Academy itself and see their beautiful space and get a guided tour. So stick around for that after Q&A. Before I bring our lovely speakers onto the stage, we've got a short video that I'd like to play and help give everybody a visual sense of what that community looks like in action. Enjoy. Okay. So that's one for the anime fans. I hope you guys had fun with that. Without further ado, let's bring out Jamie, Scout, and Tizzy.
Woo!
Woo.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Um, yes, as Rose said, I'm JustJaime. I'm director of media at Trans Academy. And today I'll be leading the conversation with our founder, Tizzy, and our director of nonprofit operations, Scout. So thank you for joining us. Let's go ahead and open up with our first question. So Trans Academy has a fairly short but fabled history, being launched in 2022, but its roots extend beyond that. So can you please talk a bit about the Academy's beginnings?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. Hi, everyone. My name is Tizzy. I'm the director of Trans Academy here. I just want to thank everyone for coming out. It's really nice to see a lot of familiar faces, but also a lot of new faces as well. And thank you to Agog for hosting us today. Trans Academy is something that I feel has been a long time coming in VRChat. When I first started playing in earnest around the time of lockdowns, I realized that there were a lot of trans people that were using the platform to be able to explore their own identity. And it's like we were sort of everywhere in the platform, but at the same time, we were nowhere. We had no central place to be able to come together and connect. And the real light bulb moment for me was over 2022. It was like in the summer of 22. I sat down with Scout actually, and we watched Joe Hunting's film, We Met in Virtual Reality. And it was such a beautiful film because it really showcased a lot of the positive real world social change that was happening in this virtual space. And seeing how communities like Helping Hands were, helping the deaf and sign community, and how like communities like Dance Academy, were teaching this whole new amazing, educational thing about dance. And it's like, there's so many trans people in VRChat. Why don't we have something similar to this? Um, and it was a pretty dark moment in my life at the time. I had just lost my mom to cancer. My dad, was also recently diagnosed with cancer around the time. And it was one of those things where it was like, how can I transmute this pain that I'm going through? But like, also, how can we take this amazing new social VR space and like create something beautiful, create something meaningful that can really have an impact on our community? And I just started plugging away in Blender and Unity one day, not even knowing where any of this would go. Scott was very, very encouraging throughout the whole process. He was very helpful as well. And, things just kind of grew and grew over time. And I can talk about that a little bit more later as well.
Yes, thank you, Tizzy, for sharing that story. Yeah, not only was it communal, but extremely personal to you as well. So, and yeah, like you said, it's grown a lot. And that does lead into my next question. From starting as a social outlet to a nonprofit, right? This is a global community. So, what has that journey looked like, and how has the Academy evolved over time? Because again, the Trans Academy's only been around for 3 years, so but it's grown so quickly. So, what has that growth looked like?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so as I said, it was something that I feel a community just really came together and said, yes, there is a need for a space like this. And one of the catalysts was actually when groups came out in VRChat, because suddenly we had the ability to display the tag above our head. And so, people going around VRChat, with their pride tags being like, hey, we have this amazing new community. And one of the first things that we did is we started what was called our Comfy Coffee Hour on Sundays. And so we said, we're going to start with one event, and we're just going to see how this goes. And every Sunday, we're going to do a get together, and we're just going to get trans people together to talk about what we're going through, talk about our lives and the struggles that we have, and be able to connect with each other. And, when you have somebody, who is in a part of the world where they don't have access to LGBT resources, like, strong communities, and like, living in a metropolitan center where you have a proper LGBT center, it can be very disorienting. It could be very tough. And so I think one of the powerful things about VRChat is its ability to connect people and create accessibility to these spaces around the world. And that's something that we really wanted to do at the Academy. We started small, and it grew organically. And between like our consistent meetups, between our group system that came out, and eventually like some of the highlighting, like Fia from the virtual reality show did this fantastic showcase. And that was really one of our big growth moments. And so it's just been little baby steps along the way. But, we've gone from an organization with 10 friends sitting around the coffee shop to having about 47,000 members as of recently in our group.
I could talk a bit more about how we are able to grow and scale.
Please do.
So Tizzy had created the world, and then we knew groups were coming, and so we had planned for the group to launch the group in a sort of social space. But then by the time that was happening in the fall of 2022, but then by the time winter came around, we started talking about adding classes. We originally wanted to do classes, and that's why we called it the Trans Academy. And so we reached out to somebody that was formerly with Seattle Voice Labs and asked if she would come on and be a teacher with us. And so we started by paying her out of pocket to teach a class once a month. And then we quickly upped it to 2 classes a month and started a Patreon. At that point, when we were starting to take some money in and we were turning around and giving it to the teacher, I said we needed to make this into something a bit more legitimate. So I filed to create a nonprofit in Nevada connected with our Nevada State LGBT Association, with our Nevada State Bar, and the Transgender Resource Center, or Transgender Law Center as well. And we laid the foundation for a nonprofit. At the time, it was hard to find people to trust because we had this great thing that we were growing. And so we looked in earnest for people that were dedicated to the cause, believed in the mission, wanted to see us grow. And we brought on a great team of people, including Jaime, 1B, Viv as well. And we started bringing on a team of engineers as well to do our moderation in our world space and help us build databases. So one of the things we pride ourselves on is collecting a lot of information on everything that happens in our spaces. So if somebody is a bad actor in our spaces, they can come back 2 years later and say, hey, I don't know why I was banned. And we can tell them the minute they were banned and exactly what for. And so we pride ourselves on our moderation to create a very safe space. And that was one of the things we did foundationally, was we wanted to create that from the start. It helped us scale, and we still have a very small team today. But we have a lot of users, and we moderate over a lot of users with just a small team of people. And we've been able to do that because of the foundations we laid very early on. But yeah, another thing is policy. Early on, we started to write a lot of policy, and I have some experience with startups. And so was able to, and I was a compliance officer in my former company. So I laid the foundation for our policy. And when our board of directors came in place, one of the first things we did over the course of a few months was lay the groundwork for exactly how we wanted to grow and what we wanted the future to be like. And we identified a North Star of where we wanted to be. And then we started working our policy towards realizing that. And so, yeah, just getting organized is what really helped grow.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I was going to say that's very important because, as you were saying, Tizzy, these conversations being had in VRChat about trans lives, they're happening regardless, right? So to have a place that people can come and actually be like, this is an organized thing that is happening, and then to have a foresight to say, hey, this is growing, let's legitimize that further is really, really good, very smart. Yeah. Talking more about the community, how has the community grown? And besides classes, what else does Trans Academy offer to help support the community?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a few core tenets at the Academy, and I would say that the first tenet is really just having a place where we can connect. As we sort of lose third spaces in real life, and places where people can come together, especially within the queer community, VRChat has sort of filled this need for that, and we're finding that trans people from around the world can really come together and be united. That's actually our big theme this year at Trans Academy, is staying united in the face of adversity. And given sort of the state of the world and where we're at, we need that more than ever right now. And it's been amazing seeing the team come together and really help to get us to where we're at today, because the community, it's a lifeline to them. It's something where we need this to be able to survive.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned it a bit earlier, but I have met people at Trans Academy who have blatantly said, like, I take off the headset, it's illegal to be who I am in my country, so this is the only place I can be me, and that is so important. And can you talk more about again, besides classes, like events that Trans Academy has put on, or different things that are offered there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really want people to feel like they belong. That's our biggest mission at the Academy, besides education, is fostering that sense of belonging. And it's done through education, but like it's also done through, other things, as you mentioned, Jaime. We do music events. We have tea time for our trans mask members to be able to come together and talk about, issues specific to trans mask stuff. We have our coffee get together. We have our Moonlit Academy, which is actually one of our most popular events. It happens twice on Wednesday, once for our EU members and once for our North American members. And it's just been this beautiful celebration of the talent and the people in the community. And it's just so special.
Yes. Trans Pride VR.
Trans Pride VR is another event we do once a year. We also do the TA birthday once a year as well, which are multi-day celebrations with panels, music events, guests, hosts, and that sort of stuff. But I was going to say, right now, we're up to 8 voice classes a month. We also have a makeup class that does both trans mask and feminizing makeup. And then we're in talks with people right now. We have a computer science class that runs twice a year as well. That's I think an 8-week course. And then we're in talks to add a Spanish class and a class on mental health resourcing. So those are
Yeah,
the other things
absolutely.
we have going on for classes.
And it might seem like a little out of left field for us to be offering things like computer science classes, but we actually have kind of a method to our madness for that. And like one of the reasons is because like a lot of queer and trans people are in places in real life where they don't have access to things like educational resources for vocational training and being able to learn things like hard and soft skills, to be able to get into an industry and be able to empower them and give them like financial autonomy to be able to escape any kind of situation that they might be in. And so we found that there's actually quite a big need for teaching skills at the academy as well. And it's something that's landed fairly well. We've run our computer science course twice now, and it was very successful. And some of our members have gone on to continue learning about CS. And we want to do more of that. You know, in 2026, one of our big organizational missions is to expand our educational offerings, including vocational, but also like trans-specific education.
That's so nice. Thank you for telling us about all that. It is a mix of classes, but, well-rounded, and it really lends the idea of it being an entire academy, right? So, no, I think it works out perfectly well. um, what does the community mean to TA members? And how significant is this space for the trans community and beyond the trans community to VRChat as a whole?
I think for some of us, it means everything. You know, this is our third space. It's our family. You know, in the community, we talk a lot about chosen family. And, you know, in real life, we might not always have that like accepting, like parents or, siblings, but you can come into VR and suddenly have access to tens of thousands of people from around the world who are going through what you're going through. And when you come into a place like the academy, you just instantly have that like deep camaraderie with them because you understand, and it really does feel like a family. And that's really what we wanted at the academy, was for people to feel like home. We wanted them to feel like they belong and like they have a home here in social VR. um, and so when I hear stories of people coming up to me and being like, "Hey, Tizzy, thank you and the staff for everything that you do, because I met my partner here, and this is my home in VRChat, and like you helped me get through some really tough times." That means everything to us. That is the thing that keeps our fire burning at TA and our volunteers, and it's why we continue to do what we do, and we'll keep doing that into the future as long as we can.
Absolutely. Yes. Know not just Trans Academy, but the platform itself is so important to so many members of the community. And kind of speaking to that community, but kind of expounding out from it even more. My next question is a bit of a two-parter. The first part is, what is the significance of VRChat as a platform for exploring and celebrating gender identity? And then after that, what is the significance for VRChat for exploring community building in general?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. And I think VRChat is so good at those two things. Like, in, I think in communities that are very identity based, like that's why we see a lot of traction in like the queer community and like the furry community and things where people can kind of design themselves. And that's the special thing, about being able to embody an avatar. Is you don't have to just be your default in real life. You can come into a space like VRChat and you can design yourself however you want. You can try on different ways of being, and you can really find an identity that you're happy with. And I think that's so powerful because in a lot of ways, it's like the art affecting the artist, right? Like if you find a look that you're happy with in the VR space, like that can impact your real life. And I think that's one of the coolest uses of this latest tech is, the betterment of ROL through this amazing virtual technology that we have here. And this is like sort of a little bit of a personal anecdote, but like when I started my transgender journey about, 10, 15 years ago, I was actually in Second Life. And I used that platform to design myself. And when I went to my surgeon to get facial feminization surgery, I brought a photo of my avatar. And I was like, this is who I'm comfortable as. Can you get something that's pretty close to this? And so like the relationship between like myself and the avatar in these spaces has always been like very powerful, very tight knit. And I see that in so many of our members too, where they're really finding themselves in the space. And so, yeah, identity is like a really powerful one. But like moving on to the second question, talking about community, like being able to be around people who can acknowledge you as that identity and get the affirmation of being like, this is who I see you as. And like, being able to actually be that person in a community. I think that's also so powerful. And so it's like really the convergence of identity and community. It's like one of the most powerful aspects of social VR.
I think there's also not a lot of judgment in VR. Like when you enter VRChat, people are generally helpful if you're not in like, if you're in a social situation with friends, people are generally helpful. They're going to let you acclimatize. There's not a lot of classism in VRChat happening as well, because it's like an equal playing field. Like the more you invest yourself in time into VRChat, the more you're going to get out of it socially. So I think that equalizer is one great way to enter a space like Trans Academy and explore things like identity and be who you want to be. You get to invent whoever you want to be as a person, and you're seen as that first before you're seen as anything else. Like you're not restricted by the things we are in real life.
Totally. Yeah. It levels the playing field and it makes it accessible too, especially like having all these new mobile platforms too, because you're not restricted to just like being, a PCVR user. Like, and that was one of the things that we really wanted to focus on as well. At the end of this, we're going to take a tour of Trans Academy and look at the new world that Rio Grande has helped us create. But one of our big missions for that was to create something that was really optimized and really accessible so that anybody can have access to the space. And you're right, like it is very powerful for leveling the playing field.
And it's available also on iOS, Android, Quest, PC VR. So
Yeah,
we wanted to make sure it
totally.
was available to everybody.
If I may also insert a small personal anecdote speaking to the identity thing, VRChat, like I've known many people who have said they've come into VRChat and discovered themselves, which is amazing. My experience was a little bit different in that I already knew my non-binary identity before entering VRChat, but VRChat is the first place in my life that I had ever been where I could just put on a particular avatar, like this, like how I'm dressed now, and people will look at me and they just kind of know. They're like, that person's non-binary. And that was an amazing feeling, and also kind of had an effect on my real life as far as, no, I can't exactly be a blob, but like how I wanted my transition to look like in person, it really lended to that. So I definitely understand. And as far as community building, it's great too, right? Because with the groups feature and everything, it's made finding community and finding your niche is so easy. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I think that finding your tribe in a space like this is so powerful, especially right now. Like, there's a bit of an epidemic of loneliness happening in the world, especially for like a lot of isolated queer people who might be like in a small town or in a part of the world where they just really can't connect. But you can put on a headset, you can get on your phone, and you suddenly have access to like tens of thousands of people from around the world. And I think that's so transformative. And it's really exciting to be a part of this new thing that's happening.
Absolutely. Before we move on, is there anything else that you would like to say about TA, about identity in VRChat as a whole?
I think if there's one thing I want to say, it's that Trans Academy is not the culmination of it's not any one person. It's all of us together. It is the whole team that has come together in like such a big way to make this happen. The saying "it takes a village," and we live that every day at TA because your team, Jamie, and One B's team and Rio's World team, everybody has like really come together, and I'm just so appreciative of just everybody and the community as well.
And how about you, Scout? Any thing you'd
I
like
don't
to
want
say?
to forget the inclusion team as well, because we just brought on Gojo, and Gojo's already
Oh,
doing excellent
yeah.
work. I was talking to him yesterday about some of the stuff he's planning on doing for inclusion, and I don't know, I'm really happy to be involved with people that are self-starters and that pick up the mission and push it forward and live for the mission of Trans Academy. I think we're going to be around for a long time to come, and we're going to be a force to be reckoned with, all working together.
Absolutely. All right. I
And
think it's time to move on to the Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a mic over here and I can circulate. If any folks in the audience have questions, you can raise your hand. What do here, I'm gonna pass you the mic.
Where are you?
Whoops. I'm jumping on your head.
Get off me! Get off! Here. Thank you. There you go.
Hello, hello, Trans Academy. I've had the pleasure of connecting with some of you and definitely want to continue the conversation, but I'm just so impressed with what you've done over these past 3 years. What's next? I mean, like, what are some things that you hope to do in the coming year and the coming years, and especially in the backdrop of this climate that we're currently in?
Yeah, absolutely. Scout, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. So one of the things that we're planning on doing is we've already raised our like salaries for our teachers and our teaching staff, but we do have a budget that allows us to increase the number of classes we're teaching. So that's my mission over the next year, is to increase the number of classes and bring on teachers that we vet through, demonstrations and internal teachings and things like that, and get a new course curriculum out for next year that's bigger than we've ever done before. So we want to keep expanding our classes. And then something else that's demanded a lot, which is not really my wheelhouse, but it's probably one being Jaime, is merch. People are always asking us to represent our organization through, like wearing a hoodie or a hat or pins, things like that. And I know that those are some things that we have planned in the very recent future or the near future for expanding. But beyond that, I just want to add more classes. I just want to have a full class load of dozens of classes a month. That's my goal. In and out of VR. We want to teach them classes on Discord as well. We've taught classes on Discord over camera before, and that's been a success. And we need to experiment more with that too.
Yeah, more education, but also just an awareness that this space exists, because right now, like, it's very just sort of within the VRChat community itself. And I feel like there's an opportunity to get people excited about VR and to get them into VRC and to help them find communities like this, even if they haven't been an existing user. And so I think my personal mission in 2026 is to really get the word out and be able to bring in new people. And to be honest, W, like, we haven't been very prescriptive about our roadmap at Trans Academy. Like, we don't really have a, we're going to do this Q1, we're going to do this Q2. We try to keep things as organic as possible and sort of pivot to the needs of the community. We're very needs driven as an organization. And if there's something that we identify that the community wants, then we'll shuffle our resources into that as we go. And I feel like that's what's gotten us to the point that we're at right now.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm with Agog, and I'm new to this world, so thanks for being patient with me. I'm so fascinated by everything you do, and what a beautiful community. And Tizzy, I kind of had a question based on what you were just talking about, too, about how many people that have joined Trans Academy have come from outside the VR world and heard about it, because it seems like such a beautiful space, and I imagine there's a massive amount of people that would gain so much from being part of it, but aren't in VR, don't have headsets and things like that. So I was thinking about that and that kind of community outreach in the physical world, aspect of your work, which is a whole other, I know, kind of outreach that you would have to add to your work, and not something that's super easy. But have you seen people that have come from the physical space and have joined and gotten a headset just in order to join Trans Academy?
Absolutely. Yeah. And those are my favorite users. They're ones who are they come up to me, I see the visitor tag above their head, and they're in a default avatar. And they're like, hey, I just went to Best Buy and bought a Quest because I heard about Trans Academy on YouTube, from one of our highlight videos. And I just wanted to come in and see what this was all about. And I wasn't expecting expecting that to happen when we started TA, but it's actually like a surprisingly common thing, which is awesome to see. And so, like, part of our mission as well is to create an easier onboarding for new people that are coming in to help kind of guide them through the early stages of being a VRChat user, so that we can really get them plugged into the community.
And I have something to add to this as well. If I had like my dream of what we could do in the future of Trans Academy, it would be to be able to give out, like, start a program to give out like base model Android phones to people that need a burner phone or in a situation where maybe they can't access these sort of classes or resources because of the living situation they're in, whether it's the country they're in or just a bad part of the country, this country, or just whatever situation they're in, be able to give them a phone so they could access our classes, access our resources, and be able to provide that through a portal for people. So that's like my dream to do for Trans Academy, is to have some sort of program for something like that, to allow more people to be able to come into the space and access what we have to offer, classes and otherwise.
Yeah, totally. At one point, we were talking with some LGBT centers about like getting them Quest headsets so that people at the real life centers could have access to the virtual space, and do a portal, vice versa, kind of like what you're saying as
Yes.
well. So yeah, definitely like wanting to do more real life connection with organizations.
And speaking with portals, we have dipped our toes into some real life connecting, as far as like uh, being present, having a presence at MagFest. And we've also done a youth library event where the youth got to, it was kind of a semi portal event where queer and LGBT children could like see Trans Academy through the eyes of like a supervisor. And yeah, got some people in that way who had never really seen VR before.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I have some questions that have come in on the YouTube stream, so I'm just going to read one here. Sorry, I'm looking through my nose hole here. Beyond the voice classes, what other classes are offered that help you during your transition on a purely practical level? In other words, how to adapt your chosen gender on a day-to-day basis?
So we have a mental health class we're starting that's going to touch on a bit of things involving transitioning and have some more state-specific answers for people. We haven't been able to put together a program on that yet, but we have an instructor in mind and we're working with them right now on it. But other than our voice classes, we just provide resources in our Discord server in a channel. And then also we have a channel for questions where you can have peer help, and people will come in and post some answers and help people out along the way.
Yeah,
Amazing.
absolutely. And in the past, we've also had some other resources that were directly related to transition, such as makeup classes, for trans femme people, and also for trans mask as well. We actually had a makeup workshop on how to masculinize your face, which was really awesome. And we've also had workshops on things like neurodivergence and the sort of intersectional issues that people deal with, like ADHD and autism, and like how that relates to navigating gender transition.
We did also have a guest speaker that was an FFS surgeon who gave a talk at the Academy as well about the process of FFS. So
Oh,
yeah, those
yeah.
are more workshops, but they're not regular classes that we've had, but we'd like to make them more regular classes if we could expand that way.
Hi, my name is Cassian. I just wanted to ask, is this a space where like other queers can hang out? Is it just for trans people? I mean, completely understand if it is. I just wanted to know if there was like a that sort of aspect to it as well.
So I myself am not trans, but I do consider myself queer. And also allies are welcome. There's one of our famous allies in the audience, Parpar, who considers himself an ally to the queer community, and he's always around our events as well. So yeah, everybody is welcome in Trans Academy. We have a lot of flags in our world that show the different types of, queer communities that we've brought together. And yeah, everybody is always welcome. It's the space where you find all sorts of people.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we really wanted to make sure we weren't doing was gatekeeping the community, because I feel like there's an opportunity to build bridges, right? I feel like sort of fostering understanding of the issues that we face as trans and queer people can really help to create acceptance and understanding. And so rather than pushing allies, our potential allies out, we wanted to open our doors to them. And a lot of times, we'll bring people in who come in as allies, and then eventually they'll join our community. We've had many cases where people come in as a cis ally, and then they come out as trans later on. And so we want to be able to allow people to come in and have that experience as well, because they might be closeted and they just don't want to be out saying I'm trans officially yet, but still want access to the space.
Clearly VRChat has a lot of advantages for you. I wanted to ask, what are which limitations of VRChat are most problematic for you? In the past, obviously, having the right hardware has been a problem. That's getting easier, but obviously it still has some limitations, like it's not necessarily easy for people to bring in their own media. And just the general thing of being a social network where, okay, you have to get an account, you have to sign up for an account with a corporation, you have to go through a bunch of steps and even to enter an event, you have to go through the menus to there. You can't just email someone a URL like you can with some video chat applications. So along those lines, which of those are actually problems for you?
So I actually wanted to mention someone earlier that I didn't get a chance to shout out, and I now get to. I want to shout out Rory from our broadcasting team, because one of the things we do with our classes is we broadcast to Twitch, and then we put videos and recordings of our classes on YouTube. So we've tried to also get outside of VRChat's limitations by posting to other places that people would be able to watch our content. But maybe Tizzy can answer the rest of the question. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
Yeah, and it's such a good question, Roman. It's something that's not even specific to Trans Academy. I think it's a platform-wide problem where the barrier to entry for this is still quite high, especially for people who want to become a core user. There's quite the journey between, being somebody who's a brand new user and being somebody who's in like full body tracking with, Steam VR headsets and everything like that. And so I think like if we could address the biggest thing, it's making the space more accessible by like making the friction less as a new user, and hardware is definitely a component of that, but also like software and design and what can VRChat do as a company to make that flow easier for people to come in and find their tribe and find spaces like TA. I think those are the biggest things to overcome right now.
Awesome. I know we're going to be hopping over to Trans Academy soon, but there's actually one question that had come in through the registration, and I think it's a perfect segue before we head over into the world. The question is, Trans Academy started as a social group, but evolved into a whole world with its own rules and culture. What design choices made that possible?
Design choices. Gosh, I mean, pretty early on, we were very inspired by like different aesthetics. One of the sort of aesthetic inspirations was the anime Little Witch Academia, and just like sort of the color palette and just we just, I don't know, Scout, you could probably expound on this a little bit more.
Well, less than design, but I think like one of the discussions we had very early on with the small group of people that eventually became our board of directors, and we're all, very good friends, and we've all been honest with each other, and we wanted to be taken seriously. That's one of the things that I think set us apart from just being a VRChat group, was when we said, hey, we're going to go from being a VRChat group to being a nonprofit, and we're going to grow, and we're going to become bigger than any one of us. And so in order to do that, we wanted to be taken seriously. And so we set down a serious set of rules and goals and North Stars for things to achieve and a path to move along. And that was a design decision as well, like designing the organization as a whole to be doing good work and be taken seriously.
Yeah, I think that was one of like the biggest things that we had to figure out as an org is like how to grow up very quickly, because
Yeah.
Trans Academy is like, we're 3 years old and we've been a nonprofit for almost 2 of those. But like within that, we've had to learn how to go from being like a small kind of nascent organization of just friends to like being able to scale to something a little bit more structured and like have the policies and everything like you're saying, Scout. And it was a bit of a crash course on how to be like a real organization. And it's been a learning process for a lot of us. But I feel like as time goes along, we get better and better at this.
And on the media side, like being brought in to do the marketing, which is my day job, so it was nice to like come in and be like, this, we're gonna have a brand, we're gonna have guidelines. Like internally, we have a whole Bible about what the look of Trans Academy should be, so that it's always cohesive when we put our face out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rad. Thank you for your questions, everyone. And another round of applause for our awesome panel here. Thank you guys for joining us. We're going to move on to the social hour portion and actually get a portal up to Trans Academy itself. And Tizzy's going to lead us through a tour there. Our friend Manglebird's going to do the portal and drop it in the middle of the stage here. I'll also take a moment to mention it's Manglebird's birthday. Happy birthday, friend.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I completely forgot.
So with that, we'll transition over. And once you see the portal, feel free to jump on in.
And the next event.
Oh, and while we're getting that set up, I'll also mention that we've got another event coming up in December 15th. Same time, 1 p.m. Pacific. We're going to be featuring a bunch of creators and the curators from the Encoded takeover of the Met. This was an Indigenous-led artist takeover through augmented reality of the Met Museum in New York City. So we're going to have a bunch of folks from that initiative come through next month. So save the date, December 15th.
Okay. Wonder how Encoded took over the Met. That's really cool.
All right.
And there's the portal. Jump on in.
All right, pile in, folks.
Think about when designing the new Trans Academy was space, people. This Trans Academy is quite much larger than the original version because as we've grown so quickly, we've had to learn how to scale. So every space is more designed to host groups of people, and in VRChat it's very common that people like to group up and kind of stand around and talk about whatever they like to do. So there's many spaces throughout the world that encourage such a thing, such behavior, to just kind of group up with your buddy and talk about whatever. So we have the main courtyard here that kind of spokes off in every different direction, inspired by the like Disneyland approach, right? So every direction will take you somewhere interesting. First thing we're gonna do once we head away from the courtyard is we're gonna head over to the HRT Cafe. That is the most popular and well-used location in Trans Academy. So we're gonna go down this way over to the cafe. And in this way, we got the front door here. You can step on in. The art style of Trans Academy was very much inspired by Genshin Impact and other stylized genres. We wanted to create a very soft and inviting environment, and we felt that running with a more stylized look would not only help us create that comfortable, inviting environment, but we can play to the strengths of VR and not have to focus on photorealism and allow for more performance, better scaling, stuff like that. So this is where most users will congregate, lots of social events happening here. And the whole cafe is designed to have a very enclosed, kind of cozy feeling, because that is what most VRChat users and VR users in general like to flock towards. We've got lots of vines and foliage. It was Tizzy's original idea that she wanted the entire college to be covered in foliage and overgrown plants and magical stuff. And I think it looks wonderful, but that's my opinion.
Really nice.
There is an upstairs as well. I don't know if we have time for that. I don't know if we have time to go through every little nook and cranny, but we can definitely check upstairs. It's a small place.
Yeah.
You said next we would like to head towards the interior.
Yeah, I think we can go in the interior and talk about like the auditorium and the dorms and stuff.
Yeah. All right, let's head outside the cafe to the courtyard and up the stairs.
Very nice. Very nice.
So the original interior for the academy was not super fleshed out or planned ahead. This new one is more designed for scaling and growth because, as Scout talked about many times, we want to have classrooms and many classes, all kinds of classes from every type of thing you could learn. And so the interior is more set up for scaling in that sense. So we have many different wings that can be added at any time without issue. The plan is that once we start getting more classes going, there will be more internal thematic college aesthetics, I guess, for giving more formal classes. The interior is mostly what you see here at the moment. So
We also have a dorm hall that's getting built out right now. Do you want to talk a little bit about why we have that, Rio?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So we have, in fact, a dorm hall, and it sounds kind of funny for being in VR, but one of the things that users can do is if they donate to the Patreon at a certain tier, in the dorm hall, we can add a portal in VRChat that will take users to their desired homeworld or a thematic dorm style in the theme of Trans Academy. So users can feel as if they've affected the world and affected what we do here and kind of be a part of it and kind of fit in. So upstairs, we won't have to go there today because there's not much in there yet, but it's just a way to add to the feeling of being a part of the academy. So where most of everything takes place here in this world in Trans Academy, like classes and such, is out by the amphitheater. So I think the next place we can go check out is down to the courtyard and to the left.
We're going this way.
Just daily work, you know, do my dailies.
The
But yes,
dailies.
this is the newest edition.
Yeah, it was not clean.
And then directly over there, as you can see in the amphitheater, is where all of our classes take place at the moment. Nice round, wonderful open space for giving talks. We have a custom presentation system as well. So you can run full PowerPoint presentations with full dynamic writing on the screen, running videos, GIFs loading from any possible repository. So it makes teaching for our teachers very easy. So they can write their own resources, write their own curriculum, whatever resources they want. They can go right in and can be directed as if it was a PowerPoint presentation right up front. There's a whole panel that we can work on and as many different features like mic amplification and everything a teacher could need for teaching a robust and successful class.
Can you see your notes?
Yeah, there are ways to write notes up there as well. There's even a laser pointer too.
Beautiful.
Yeah. This is where most of the Trans Academy magic takes place, where we empower our users in our community to really learn themselves and learn more to, get themselves out of bad situations or just better their transition.
This is nice.
And there's many nooks and crannies to this world. That is the overall streamlined tour, of course.
Awesome. Do we want to cut everybody loose to explore a little bit? I don't know if there's time.
Feel free to, if you all want to run around or have time, feel free. There's many things to look at.
Thank you, Rio.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Oh, wow. That's really nice.